Hey, I'm Peter, and this is my twin Comanche. I'll give you a little tour of it. It's got about the same performance as a Comanche 250. It has two engines, IO 320s, 160 horsepower a side, naturally aspirated. I got three-bladed MT propellers on them, which are nice and smooth and quiet. Plane has de-ice. It was made before you fled into known icing certification, but you can see I have vertical, horizontal, and the wings all have de-ice boots. And then the propellers, it's not installed right now because I just put new propellers on. The propellers have an alcohol system which keeps the ice off of them. Actually see from winter I threw some ice at the side of my plane right there in that propeller arc. The last propellers. And a matching ding on this side. I suppose I'll just repaint it each year. Anyway, flexible gear. Does about 150 knots. Got a Jantrol heater. A ton of fuel. This tip tank holds 15 gallons. I got an ox tank right there that holds another 15 gallons. I got the main tank here, which holds 30 gallons. The plane burns about 7 gallons a side in cruise. So I plan for 4 gallons out of the mains, 2 hours out of the ox, and another 2 hours out of the tip tanks. And it turns out the bathroom is the limiting factor, not fuel. I like the paint job. I think it looks pretty good. Back here is the baggage compartment. You can technically make this a 6-seater, but those last two people better be small, little kids. There's a little footwell hole right there behind the second row seats. But that is the only baggage area, so if you put 2 more seats back there, you have absolutely 0 baggage. With my family on board going somewhere, the 4 of us fill this plane up. Let's walk around the other side here and go inside and take a look at it. That's the air intake for cabin ventilation, which is amazing. And there's also the intake for the Jantrol heater. There's a little firewall right about there. A little valve opens up so it can go into the heater. The exhaust for the heater is right there. Heater works great. So it's a pretty dated panel, but it gets the job done. There's the back 2 seats. We've discovered with our family of 4, we have 2 young children. I sit in the captain's chair. My wife actually sits back here in this chair. My son, who's in kindergarten, we slide the seat forward so my wife has tons of room. And then my daughter, who's a 3rd grader, she can sit right there. And we're all relatively comfortable. We certainly can't move around much. Climb inside. So the panel, got my little transponder back there. For my ADS-B out, I have the, I think it's called Sky something or another. It's the tail light has the encoder in it. And my clock standard 6-pack was upgrade of the HSI, which I really like. And then the HSI is only hooked to the Garmin 430, and my CDI hooks to my Bendix KX155. They both have their benefits. The KX155 is solid as a rock and reliable. Never have to update it. It just always works. The Garmin, of course, has a certified GPS, so you can do all the new GPS approaches. I use them both pretty equally. It also has the KX78 NDB, which works just fine. I actually use it for the local radio station. I know where it is geographically, and so this needle essentially just always points at home for me, which is nice. That's quite a range. And then I have the DME, which I could live without. The GPS covers that job. Down below, these secondary instruments, I got my gyro suction, two little flags pop out when it's off. It's off right now, of course. My ammeter, which works but I don't use. The alternator in-op little flags that'll pop out. This is what I actually use. I can switch this from volts to amps to the digital gauge. Ultimatic 3B, which did work. It stopped working. There's a short somewhere. I gotta figure that out. It's a decent amount about it. Over here, digital tacks. I didn't put those in. I'm not a big fan of them. They're kind of hard to read. And the numbers are just too exact. It's you're constantly messing with them, trying to get them to match up, and they never match up. I got the original manifold pressure gauge and original fuel flow. Just did a long flight. The calibrations on that is pretty good. Original oil pressure gauges, original oil temperature gauges, those work fine. And then down below that I have my cylinder head temperature, which are both in op now because I have this Electronics International. It's a really simple engine monitor. It looks at CHT and EGT on all 8 cylinders, right? 4 per side, 4 over here, 4 over there. But it only shows 1 each for each side. So if you have this on selected number 1, you're gonna see exhaust gas temperature on both sides for number 1, and then you click it over 2, 3, 4. Once you get to 5, it switches over to cylinder head temperature, and that'll cycle through all the cylinders there. It'll help you with leaning as well. Down here, cowl flaps, flap position, which is just a 3-position switch. So you have center, down moves them down, back to center does nothing, up makes them go up. And the indicator for them is just here behind the prop levers. Alternate air if you hit icing, rudder trim, and of course the old twin throttle quadrant here. Throttle, props, and mixtures. There's my little gear handle right here. You get the up light is on constantly, in transition light, of course, when it's in transition. And when you're down, you get a single green light. But also, I just have some cheap mirrors right out there in the tip tank. You can't see it in the video, but I can see it while flying. I can see the left main gear and the nose out of that mirror. And if I look over in this direction, I have a little mirror on the other tip tank, which I can see the right main and the nose gear as well. So I can get the green light and I can actually look at all of my gear positions. Circuit breakers across the bottom. I rather dislike those. You can't pull them. They only pop themselves. I suppose you can pull them if you try really hard, but it's difficult. I prefer the more modern style. Way over here is my fuel quantity gauges, which are about as accurate as any old Piper from the 70s, which is to say not very accurate. And then below that is my cabin heat controls. This is the heater switch, so it's either off. First position is fan only, second position is heat. This is an actual valve to turn on the fuel to the heaters. Actually, I left it on, so I'm going to turn it the other direction. Just like closing a spigot. Close that valve up. And then over here I have my how hot or cold it is, airflow, defroster, and separately just panel vents for venting. These are always on. They blow a lot of air. It comes from that nose bowl hole I showed you earlier. The Copilot has no brakes. The Pilot does have brakes. And then across over here, these are my boost pumps, mags, the left engine, the starter switch. This is mags, the right engine, and boost pump for the right engine. Down underneath here are just all my lights. You can see down there. You gotta have the nav lights all the time in the on position so that your transponder works because of that tail beacon transponder. Oh, sorry, up here on the ceiling is my elevator trim. I also have an electric switch for it on the yoke. A couple of little lights up here, they're pretty useful. I have discovered though that this red light, which you use to light up the panel, affects the light sensors on the radios, and they go full bright if you turn the red light on at night. So I just take a little piece of electrical tape or a sticker and stick it over the sensors to keep them dim at night if I'm using the red light. And there's the back of the plane. Not much to talk about, but I like the way it looks. Annoyingly, the headset jacks are way back there, so if you have it stacked full of baggage, you gotta kind of snake your headset over the baggage and then to you, which is fine for adults, but for the kids it's a little confusing and annoying. A couple more vents up there. Again, the vents work amazingly in this plane. Got shoulder harnesses hooked into the seat belts. And then down here is my fuel selector. So right now you can see they're on mains. Pull this little pin up. That's aux. And then over here is a switch, and that takes it out to the tip tank. Not the greatest system, but once you're used to it, it works fine. And then for cross feed, you flip that out of the way, pick it up, and now I am feeding the left engine from the right tank. And cross feed only goes to the mains. These little switches for the tip tanks are kind of dangerous. If they get knocked out of position, you'll be pulling from the tip tank and not realize it. It's happened to me twice. The tip tanks were empty and I was pulling from them. My engine started surging while I was flying. Kind of gives you a heart attack for a second, but it's easily solved by moving the switch. Under here, the chairs are in the way currently. And this is the emergency gear. There it goes. There's a little lever, goes into one of those fittings. You release that lever back there, which releases it from the motor, and you can jack your gear down. If you forget how to do it, there's instructions in the back. I suggest you know how to do it before you need to. I'll probably actually do it on the next annual, just so my knowledge isn't just from reading, it's actually from experience. I'll clip that back down a second. Down here, got a couple more fuses for the big stuff. Alternators, I think is about all that's down there. And batteries. Back here in this little cubby hole between the seats, that is how you sump your tanks. So just grab these little red levers here and pull them up, and a little bit of fuel will pour out of whatever tank it's selected on. And this one back here is for the other side. And that's about it for the tour of the twin Comanche. It's a pretty good plane. My only complaint so far is it's a little tight for a family of 4. It's definitely a single engine plane that just had the engine split in half and stuck on the wings. There you go. Thanks for watching.